Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time you sent in some really interesting stuff about the decline of traditional media in America.
Oh, yeah. It's a fascinating topic and definitely something we all see happening every day.
Right. Like it's not like this is ancient history. This is happening now, and like
Mhm.
all of us get our news in a totally different way than we used to.
Exactly.
And it's happening so fast, too. One of the stats that really jumped out at me was that 86% of Americans now get their news from digital devices.
Yeah, 86%. That's huge. It's hard to even remember what it was like before the internet.
Right. Like I barely remember it.
Yeah, I don't.
It feels like a completely different world. Okay, so let's break down how we got here. What are some of the key things that led to this like huge shift in how we consume news?
Well, the early 2000s was really when things started to change. The internet was becoming more and more popular. And then platforms like Facebook and Twitter started popping up. And
Facebook, like social media.
yeah, social media. But it wasn't just for connecting with friends anymore. People started using it to share news and opinion.
Right.
It was all happening in real time.
And that's like a key difference, right? That real-time aspect of it. It's
Yeah.
not like waiting for the morning paper or the evening news anymore.
Exactly.
It's instant, constant updates.
And especially for younger generations, they've grown up with this like on-demand access to information.
Right.
They're more likely to get their news from podcasts or YouTube or social media.
And from like traditional newspapers or TV news.
Right, like that Pew Research Center study we were talking about, the one that found 86% of Americans get news digitally. It really highlights that shift.
Yeah, it's huge. It almost feels like traditional media was caught off guard a bit.
Yeah, it's like everyone was so busy trying to adapt to this new digital world
Yeah.
that they didn't realize the ground was shifting beneath them. And
Right.
the shift, it had some major consequences,
Yeah.
especially financially. This
Yeah.
is what a lot of people call the financial fallout of the digital revolution.
The financial fallout, that's a pretty intense way to put it.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. Like, as more and more people turn to online sources for news, what happens to the traditional media outlets?
They start losing money fast.
Right. Because advertising revenue.
It just plummets.
Okay, so this financial fallout, it's not just like a catchy phrase. It's a real crisis for these
Huh.
publications.
Oh, absolutely. Like a great example is the New York Times.
Okay.
Between 2010 and 2020, their print ad revenue decreased by like 44%.
24%?
That's almost half.
That's insane.
It is. And it forced them to make some major cutbacks.
Like what?
They had to lay off employees.
Wow.
And it's not just the New York Times. We've seen this with major publications all over the country.
Right.
Some of them have even shut down completely,
Yeah.
like the Denver Post,
Wow.
the Chicago Tribune. Like these are big names.
They are. It's kind of scary, honestly.
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
It's not getting any easier.
No, it's not. In fact, it's kind of creating a vicious cycle.
How so?
Well, as traditional outlets struggle financially, they have less money to invest in quality journalism,
Right.
which can lead to a decline in the quality of reporting.
Makes sense.
And that can drive even more readers away.
so they lose even more money.
Exactly. It's a tough cycle to break.
It is. So how did we even get here? Like, what are some of the things that have made it so difficult for traditional media to adapt to this new digital world?
Well, one thing is that advertisers, they love digital ads.
Oh, yeah.
Because they can target them to specific audiences
Right.
and they can track how effective they are.
Which you can't really do with print ads.
Nope. So advertisers are shifting their spending away from traditional media and towards digital platforms.
And that's a big part of the financial problem.
It's a huge part of it.
It's like the money is following the eyeballs.
Exactly.
And the eyeballs are on their phones.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for these traditional outlets. It's almost like they're having an identity crisis, trying to figure out how to stay relevant in this new world.
Right. It's like they're trying to be the same trusted source they've always been, but also trying to keep up with all these changes. It's a tough balance.
Yeah, it is.
And one thing that really struck me from all the articles you sent is the rise of social media influencers.
Oh, yeah.
Like these individuals have built these huge followings online. And for a lot of people, especially younger generations, they've become these trusted sources of information. It's like they've cracked the code of connecting with people in this digital world.
Yeah, they definitely have. And it's something that traditional media outlets are struggling with. Like, how do you compete with someone who can just like post a video on TikTok and get
Right.
millions of views?
Instant. And it feels personal.
Exactly.
So it makes you wonder if traditional media needs more than just like a few tweaks here and there. Maybe they need like a complete overhaul.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's about rethinking the role of journalists or embracing new storytelling formats,
Yeah.
or finding ways to build more authentic relationships with their audiences online.
Right. It's not just about the content anymore. It's about the connection.
Exactly.
And it might even mean rethinking their entire business model.
Oh, yeah. Like the old way of relying on advertising revenue, it's not really working anymore.
No, it's not. A lot of experts believe that subscription-based models are the future.
Subscription-based models.
Yeah, where readers pay directly for access to content.
Oh, okay. So like instead of relying on ads, they're getting paid directly by the people who value their work.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Like
Yeah.
people are willing to pay for quality, especially if it's something they believe in.
Right.
It's like investing in a membership to a club you care about.
Exactly. And it gives media outlets more freedom, too.
How so?
They're not beholden to advertisers anymore.
Right. So they can focus on producing high-quality journalism.
Exactly, without having to worry about pleasing advertisers or chasing clicks.
That's huge.
It is. And it brings us to a bigger question. What happens to news and information when the power shifts from traditional media to these digital platforms and influencers?
Right, that's a big one. So we've got these digital platforms and influencers kind of taking center stage. And traditional media is trying to figure out where they fit in. What does that mean for how we consume and understand news?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And there are a lot of different opinions about it.
Like what?
Well, some people argue that this shift has democratized information.
Okay.
Like it's given a voice to people who were previously unheard.
Right, like marginalized communities or people who don't have access to traditional media.
Exactly.
So that's a good thing, right?
It can be. But there's also a downside.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's a greater risk of misinformation spreading.
Right, because anyone can post anything online, and it's not always accurate.
Exactly.
So it's like a double-edged sword.
It is.
On one hand, you have more voices and perspectives, which is great for inclusivity. But on the other hand, you have the potential for misinformation to spread like wildfire. Yeah. It's a challenge.
It is.
And it's not just about misinformation.
What else?
There's also the issue of filter bubbles,
Filter bubbles.
where you're only exposed to information that reinforces your existing beliefs.
Oh, right. Like those echo chambers we were talking about?
Exactly.
I feel like I'm in one of those all the time. Like my social media feeds are just full of stuff that I already agree with.
Yeah. It's because of the algorithms.
The algorithms.
Yeah. They're designed to show you content that you're likely to engage with.
So like if I click on a lot of articles about climate change, then the algorithm is going to show me more articles about climate change,
Exactly.
even if they're all from the same perspective. So
Yeah.
I'm not getting a balanced view of the issue,
You're just getting more of what you already think.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it can be limiting.
It can be. Because it can make it harder to understand other perspectives.
Right. And it can make it harder to have productive conversations with people who disagree with you.
Exactly.
So what can we do about it? Well, first of all, we need to be aware of these algorithms and how they work.
Okay.
We need to be more intentional about seeking out diverse viewpoints.
So like actively looking for information that challenges our own beliefs.
Exactly.
That's tough, though.
It is. But it's important.
It is, because otherwise
Yeah.
we're just going to keep getting stuck in these filter bubbles,
Right.
and we're never going to be able to see the bigger picture.
Exactly.
So the responsibility is shifting then.
It is.
It used to be that traditional media acted as these gatekeepers. They decided what information we saw.
Right.
But now it's more up to us
It is.
to be discerning and to curate our own news diets.
Exactly.
We can't just passively absorb whatever's being fed to us by these algorithms.
Yeah, we can't.
We have to be more active, more critical.
Right.
We have to be more responsible.
Exactly.
So it's a call to action then.
It is.
A call to be more engaged citizens, more informed voters, more responsible members of our communities.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Wow. This is a lot to think about.
It is.
But it's important stuff.
It is.
And it's stuff that affects all of us.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Me too. It really is exciting and daunting at the same time.
Right. Like we have so much power now as individuals, but it also comes with a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, as we've been talking about all this, I keep coming back to that 86% statistic, the one about Americans getting their news from digital devices.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge number.
It is. And it just makes me wonder, like, what does that actually look like in practice? How are people finding their news in this digital world?
Well, researchers are still trying to figure that out completely. But one thing's for sure, people are relying more and more on personalized news feeds.
Oh, yeah. like the ones curated by algorithms.
Exactly.
It's like my social media feeds, or those news apps that recommend articles to me.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to guess what I want to read.
Yeah, that's the idea. But that's also where it gets kind of tricky.
How so?
Well, those algorithms, they can be helpful in finding relevant content, but they can also create those echo chambers we were talking about.
Right, the filter bubbles.
Exactly.
Where you're mainly seeing information that confirms what you already believe, which can be a problem.
Yeah. It can lead to a really distorted view of the world.
And it can make it hard to have conversations with people who disagree with you.
Exactly.
Because you're not even seeing the same information.
Right.
So it's like we're all living in our own separate realities.
Yeah, kinda.
So what can we do about it?
Well, we have to be aware of these algorithms and how they work.
Yeah.
And we have to make a conscious effort to seek out different viewpoints.
So like actively looking for information that challenges our own biases.
Exactly.
That's tough, though.
It is.
It's so easy to just stay in our comfort zones.
It is.
But if we want to be informed citizens, we have to do the work.
We do.
It's almost like the responsibility is shifted.
In a way, it has.
It used to be that traditional media acted as these gatekeepers.
Yes.
They decided what information we saw. But now, it's more up to us to be discerning and to curate our own well-rounded news diets.
Exactly.
We can't just passively absorb whatever's being thrown at us.
Yep.
We have to be more active,
Yeah.
more critical,
Right.
more intentional.
I think that's a great way to put it.
So it's a call to action then.
It is.
A call to be more engaged citizens, more informed voters, and more responsible members of our communities.
Couldn't agree more.
Wow. This deep dive has been incredibly insightful. Thank you so much for breaking all this down for us.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
We've covered so much ground, from the rise of the internet and how it's impacted traditional media to the challenges of navigating this new digital information landscape. It's a lot to process.
It is.
But I think the biggest takeaway for me is that the future of news isn't something that's happening to us. It's something we're all actively shaping through our choices and actions.
That's a great.
So to everyone listening out there, I want to leave you with one final thought. What role do you want to play in shaping the future of news? What kind of information ecosystem do you want to create for yourself and for your community? It's a question worth asking ourselves every single day. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.